Okay, so in this video we're going to look at responses to earthquakes. Remember, in the examiner can ask you how to prepare or how to respond. Now, if the examiner asks you how to prepare for a hazard, that is what a government would do before the actual event. There is another video on this, check it out. But what we're going to look at today in this video is how a government can respond to the event. So this is what they would do after the actual event has happened. And in this case, we're going to be talking about earthquakes. So we'll go to perfect responses. So firstly, a country can ask for financial support. Normally from a HIC, and that financial support is going to go towards the relief efforts, the long-term building development that the country will need. So especially if you're an LIC, you would definitely be doing this. Number two, a government would send in the armed forces or the emergency services, but normally the army would go in, and this would be used for evacuating people, evacuation from, in the case of earthquakes, collapsed buildings. Now, of course, if you was talking about the response to a tropical storm, it wouldn't necessarily be collapsed buildings, it might be flooded areas. So do just contextualise it for the specific hazard you're talking about. Number three, you would set up field hospitals to take the strain off the healthcare service. I mean, you have to, imagine it. You've got massive earthquake. The hospitals in that country, especially if it's an LIC, are going to be overrun. They're going to be overstretched. So a field hospital is literally makeshift hospitals set up in an open area where medically trained staff and volunteers would help in that facility. So field hospitals are a must. Countries might also ask for aid in the form of medicine, food, and bottled water. So things that a country are really going to need, especially if people have lost their homes, they have nowhere to stay, things like this are really going to come in use. Now, everything that I've put there, short-term response, short-term response, short and short. So don't forget, when there's a question on responses, there's short-term responses and there's long-term responses. Now, a long-term response would be something like rebuilding people's homes, rebuilding the infrastructure that a country has lost. So it might be rebuilding roads, railways, ports, airports, for example, anything that was lost by this disaster. So just be clear on the short term and long term. So long term, it's going into the whole rebuilding of whatever was lost, be it roads, ports, railways, etc. So there you are, responses to an earthquake.